All right, welcome everyone. This is the first event for the ITSM-CG of 2022. Happy New Year's, glad you can join us. As a reminder, this is a follow-up to Leanne's presentation last year. I'm excited to introduce today's presenter, Mark Sullivan. You probably recognize him, we've had him on here before. He's a seasoned relationship manager at Purdue University and is quite active in the BRM Institute. A couple housekeeping items. This presentation will go on about 35 minutes. We'll leave some time over for the end for Q&A. But as always, if you want to ask questions, go ahead and type them into the chat window. As I mentioned, this is a Zoom meeting, so everyone has the ability to unmute themselves. If you can't and you want to speak, I would encourage you to raise your hand using the raise hand function, and I will take you off mute. I'm admitting people as well, so trying to multitask. So feel free to post your questions, take yourself off mute, but go ahead and put yourself back on mute once you're done asking your questions. We also encourage you to talk to each other through the chat window. This webinar is being recorded. It'll be available on the ITSM website within 5 business days. Okay, well, without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mark.
Great, thanks, Mitchell. Appreciate all your efforts in helping to provide this forum and opportunity to share more information on business relationship management in the higher education community. So appreciate all the work you put in.
Glad you
so
could,
today we're going to talk about. Yep. Are we good?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark. I was just saying thank you for presenting today. Yeah, sorry.
All right. Sorry, it cut out. I didn't catch all of it. So, so today we're going to talk about logic models, and this is one of those. It's a tool that you might be able to use because a lot of times BRMs have a difficulty measuring the value that they bring to an organization. So, this is a way to maybe help provide more clarity on that. Leanne touched on this a little bit, but today we're really going to focus on logic models. So for me, I'm a certified business relationship manager at Purdue University. Been IT for prior to Purdue for over 25 years. Came to Purdue about 5 years ago as a BRM, the first time in that role. And it's, honestly for me, it was, I didn't know what I was getting into, but now that, I've been in it for this time, I wish I would have found it 20 years before, because it's been remarkably gratifying, terrific experience, and feel that I'm able to have such greater impact on the success of the organization in this role. So, for those of you that aren't in BRM or just interested, I'm definitely an advocate for the role and what it can do. For me personally, it was the right thing. So the team at Purdue University, and we're located here in the Midwest in North Central Indiana. The team, we're part of the College of Agriculture. So we have right now, we're just a team of 3, and honestly, most of my time now is spent in an interim role as a support services manager. But for myself, my passion is with business relationship management. Mitchell mentioned Leanne in her earlier presentation. She is our director of business relationship management, and she is a master BRM. My other colleague on our team is Brandon Reese, and he's also a certified BRM. So we take a lot of, we look at the credentials and certification that's offered through the Business Relationship Management Institute and the providers that deliver those certifications as a valuable tool for us, because in higher education, certifications, acknowledgments like that are valued, and I think it helps speak to the credibility of our team. So previously, as mentioned, Leanne talked about, I think her presentation was help. I need help starting I need to start telling my BRM story. And we're going to build on that a little bit. She covered some components of logic models in that, but she didn't go into like a deep dive on logic models. So we're going to do that. But before we start, we've got a quick poll. It's a really simple question, just to try and get an idea where the audience is. And Mitchell is going to pop that up. So do you find it challenging to measure and communicate the impact of your BRM program?
We'll, it's fair, we'll give about 30 seconds or so. I'll watch the respondents. Once we get to a critical number, start slowing down, I'll go ahead and close the poll.
Okay. And knowing that, you know, some of you are not here as BRMs or have a BRM program, but maybe you're curious. So give that a second.
Looks like we got about 21 out of 26. Just a couple seconds longer if anybody else wants to jump in. Prompted one more person, thanks. All right, I think 22 out of 26 is good. I'll go ahead and end the poll, Mark.
All right, so yeah, it's, you know, it is, it looks like most of you find it challenging that have BRM programs. And, you know, when BRMs get together, this is really one of the top topics. You know, how do you measure, communicate the value of the BRM program? So I think it's really a fundamental question. And if you're not able to answer, you know, what value BRM brings, you're probably not, your program probably not going to be around very long. It's really critical to the survival of your BRM efforts to be able to make others understand, you know, what value you're bringing to the organization. So consider the types of activities that BRMs do with influencing others, identifying opportunities and improving outcome, increasing the value that comes out of initiatives. And those things are kind of squishy. You know, it's not necessarily easy to put those in black and white terms. So the logic model is a way to help us do that. So when you have that, you want to be able to measure the value of your program. You got to figure out what you're going to measure, when you measure it, and how you measure it. So you can take advantage of those unique opportunities and the visibility of the BRM role. So why a logic model? You know, going back to kind of the history of the logic model, these have been around for a long time. I think they started in the 50s. I think probably didn't get the logic model name until the 60s, but they are actually pretty prevalent in government nonprofit organizations. The NIFA and USDA commonly use or require logic models as part of the programs that they're involved in to measure success. It moves away from measuring typical inputs like people, money, users. So what it does, so a logic model will help provide your organization with a roadmap of the intended activities. So what do you expect to accomplish with your efforts? It gives you a way to visualize what's going on with your activities. So there's a lot of different forms of logic models. There's no one like this, you must use this form, but it's always going to have a commonality of following a flow. So, but it gives you a way to, again, visually reference, what you're trying to do. It also provides you with a point for common language for everyone involved. So you can, once you get this documented in a logic model, everyone can refer to it and you understand better the language and within the program. Helps create shared understanding of goals, methods, and results, because we're gonna spell those out. It gets attention focused on the relationship between activities. So again, it's a flow. So it's, this leads to this, leads to this. We're focused on that relationship. It also provides a results-based data needed to monitor and improve and communicate. So with a logic model, you're going to have results in mind based on the situations you're trying to address. And then you'll be able to use that in order to assess the effectiveness of the program. Also clearly describes assumptions, expectations, and as I mentioned, expected outcomes. Systematic way of viewing the programming. Visualization is flexible. It's easy to adjust on the as you're going into it. So as you create your plan, as you go through your plan, you may find what your activities do may change the results and the outcomes, and you're not locked in. You can always go back and update the logic model. It enhances the case for program investment by providing an organized document and being able to disseminate that throughout those that you want to communicate and influence within the organization or outside. There's even stakeholders. So some of the basics of the logic model. First of all, it should provide a simple image of how your BRM program works. So again, we're addressing situations with that we want to improve, problems within the organization. We're trying to communicate how BRM is going to influence that and get results. It reflects a shared understanding of all the participants. It follows an if then what flow. I think when Leanne was talking about this, it's kind of you get to the point where it's okay, so what, you did this. So it's kind of if you do this, what's the result? What's the real impact of that? The components of a logic model. Every logic model is going to have this. They're going to have the resources, so the inputs that go into it, the activities that you perform, the outputs of those activities, and then the outcomes from your efforts, and then impact. Well, so we keep drilling down to understand what the impact is, and this is going to lead it right into impact statements, which is another part of reporting and sharing, communicating the value of your BRM program that was mentioned by Leanne in her presentation a couple months ago. I think there's going to be a follow-up really focusing on those impact statements. So what it's going to do, it's going to produce an inventory of what you have, what you need to operate your program. It's going to, oops, sorry about that, provide a statement of how your program will produce the results and how you're going to assess that. Overall, you want to make it easy to follow. So in the format gives you really a good opportunity to continue to make sure that what you put down is actually logical. Again, it's a logic model, but it makes sense to the readers, people you're trying to communicate to. Some success factors. So you want to make sure that you have agreement with your partners on what success looks like. And this gives you a forum to build up to that and put it in a format that others can understand and get agreement to. You want to be able to create indicators that you've collected data for your program evaluation. So again, it kind of builds on itself. You want to keep it simple, meaningful, and manageable. And you have the opportunity to develop evaluation questions with to support the outputs and the impacts that you're expecting. And we'll talk about that in a minute when we get into the program, how we do that. You want to be able to continually review and ensure that the success criteria are in line with the program objectives. Update the program as it evolves or desired outcomes change. So rarely do we ever get a scenario where we have something in mind and it doesn't alter, it doesn't change from our original concept. The logic model really is easy to adapt as those things reveal themselves and as your program changes, or you may discover an outcome that you didn't anticipate. So what is a logic model? It's a visual and systematic way to represent the strategy of your program, the resources that you have available, and the activities that you plan, and the outcomes you expect to achieve. So, as I mentioned, if you're in a land grant university and have an extension program, extension programs are going to be really familiar with this because a lot of their reporting is based on a logic model, and that's kind of how we got to this point, because the College of Agriculture has a really strong extension program. Leanne, our director, she came from extension, and we were aware of the capability to report outcomes with the logic model. So it was easy for us to adopt, and it's safe in our organization because they already understand it. So we're going to go through some basics here. So once you have a situation, and the situation is not, we're not going to list that here, but the first thing you want to do is you want to understand what are the resources and inputs that you're going to need in order to operate your program. So what people, what maybe, what technical resources, what groups, what are you going to need to support this program? Then you want to talk about, you understand, so if you get access to those resources, then what activities are you going to plan? Once you have those activities planned, what are going to be the outcomes of those plans? So if you're successful in the activities, then you should be able to deliver X and produce X. So what are those outputs from the activities you're going to perform? And if you have those outputs, then what's going to be the outcome of those outputs, or the benefits? So you're able to complete the activities, you produce the outputs, but what are those outputs used for, and how are they going to benefit them, the program? And then really, what's the impact? So you've got your the benefits to the participants, they've achieved, and they result in certain changes in the organization, the community, the stakeholders, or systems. What change did those make by completing those outcomes? So let's put it into, let's see, your planned work. So your planned work, those are your first two things, your resources and activities, and then we categorize the others as your intended results. again, we're moving the focus away from measuring people, amount of money, number of users, that type of thing. So let's take a real simple example of planning a vacation. So you got a situation where family needs a vacation. You haven't had one for a while. Your resource inputs might be the family preferences, family schedules, frequent flyer options, if you've got frequent flyer miles to use, weather on your holiday. You've got probably preferences on what the family likes, warm climates, cold climates, the activities you perform. So you're creating schedules, you're getting flight information, you get your tickets, you arrange for transportation, and then your outputs are your tickets, your frequent flyer miles you used, money's been saved, and the outcomes. So hopefully outcome is the family members enjoy the vacation, but what's the next step? So what's the impact of them enjoying it? So lifelong memories, improved family relationships. So this is, just a very simple explanation, but it shows you how they build on each other, and you might reveal some things that you hadn't really thought about if you hadn't gone through and looked at those steps one by one. So this is again your planned work, and then your intended results. So I know this looks like a lot. We'll kind of focus in on some components here. So if you take that logic model concept and we put it in some BRM terms here, and the first one, like I said, we're just going to focus on some components. You want to, first of all, be sure that you understand the problem in the situation you're trying to address. And most likely, you've got a lot of opportunities to address problems, situations you see in your organization that you as BRMs want to improve. On our team, we had a session and whiteboarded, a ton of situations that we saw as less than desirable, less than ideal, and it gave us things to work on, things to focus on, but it's a way that the group can have the opportunity to provide input. So in this situation, we're just going to follow through the opportunity to create partnerships between business and technology partners. Obviously that's a major focus of BRM, building relationships. So you get a convergence of business and technology. So in this situation, we're going to try and address the issue of improving those partnership opportunities between business and technology partners. Some of the inputs: time, BRM staff, knowledge that we have of the technical environment, knowledge that we have of business partner needs, and some of the activities we might perform. So we identify and build connections. So you find those needs, match them up with partners that can assist, and you work on building that connection. And hopefully some of your outputs, you get them, your business partners together, and they strategize and plan together. That would lead to partners begin to understand the goals and objectives and motivations of each other. So here we've broken it down into 3 different columns. So as far as our outcomes, the first one there is knowledge. So how has knowledge been increased by the result of the work that we've done? So in this case, we hope that partners begin to understand the goals and objectives and motivations of each other. And that starts to create, empathy, a better partnership. And, you're not, sometimes there's adversarial situations that could be remedied by simply understanding, what the others are focused on. So, it's not IT's role to make things more difficult, as sometimes business partners might think. There's security concerns that they have to be aware of. So this gives an opportunity to hopefully get into that and share the understanding. So under actions that might be influenced or changed, so BRM and technology partners are seen as strategic partners. So you start to have a different view of the other person on the other side. You start to understand what their motivations are and why they approach things a certain way, and that should go both directions. And then conditions. So these are societal conditions or organizational conditions that might be changed. So once hopefully, if you do this really well, then business and technology achieve convergence. So they will call those technical partners when they have an idea that they want to pursue, or technology will involve business partners when they're piloting or investigating a change within the organization or a new technology. So this is, you keep asking yourself those questions. If I do this and this happens, what does that mean? So, I gain this additional knowledge. What's that lead to? And I change people's actions and the way that they behave, and what does that lead to? And it hopefully will lead you to this broader organizational change that can really change the way groups operate, their efficiencies and effectiveness, and improve the environment and the connections between IT and business. So here in this section, this is where you can get your questions. If you want to provide a survey to, I'm going to go to the next slide, or get rid of that. So with your anticipating, you're changing the knowledge and you're changing the actions of individual, you can come up with questions that say, okay, you go back to those people that were affected and ask them, did you change the way that you view your business partner or your technical partner? And have you changed the way you interacted with them? And if you do this enough, these are very qualitative things, but if you do it enough and combine them, you can get to a quantitative, to say that, 80% of business partners, now view technical partners as truly strategic partners. So it gives you a chance to create a survey, although surveys are, I always like to do it one-on-one, and not just send them a blank survey that expected to fill out. It's better to have those questions filled out in person, and where you can have conversation and provide clarification, that type of thing. But it's, again, you're anticipating what your outcomes will be, and this gives you the ability to evaluate whether you were successful or not. And then down below, we have our underlying conditions, and those are, over here in this area is your assumptions. So assumptions about what you will have and the type of support you might have, external factors that might influence the program, such as business partner participation, technology partner participation, that type of thing. So those are some of your underlying factors that may impact the success of your program. It just gives you a chance to document that. So I see we've got a few things in chat. I don't know if there's any questions in there we should address.
Not at this time, Mark. I just was mentioning that someone was asking about one of the examples. I think it's in your slide, if we can send that out. And I mentioned you've got templates that we're willing to share, and those will be sent out as well. But I don't see any specific questions. But go ahead and take this time to either ask a question or go ahead and add questions to the chat, and we'll make sure we get to them. So
yeah. So here's another more specific example that we utilized in our organization when we were trying to address, let's see, class overall educational impact of technology in the classroom and success there. So again, it can be the logic model can be applied in many situations. You want to consider what your role and objectives are as a BRM and a BRM program. What's your mission? So if you have a mission, I would, first of all, if you don't have a mission, I would highly recommend always having a mission statement. It provides you with a compass as to the direction and purpose of your BRM program. So when you consider the mission of your BRM program, what are the issues that you can identify in your organization that would improve your success in completing that mission? And think about your vision. So your vision is going to be your long-term, where do we want to be 5, 10 years from now when we've done things really well and we've been successful? What do we want that to look like? And so then what are the situations that we need to address in order to get there? And as we've talked, this is a very linear, and each phase builds upon the other. So move back and forth between the different phases in the logic model to ensure that you've got the supporting connection. So if you have something, maybe it's something that you want to be sure to impart, improve certain knowledge and actions, make sure that you have the supporting connections behind it, the activities and the outputs and the things that are needed for those that will support that. So if you may start with, I really need, this to happen, make sure you have those supporting pieces that will make that possible, make it successful to achieve that, and work back and forth as you add things. You need to add things to the previous phases to support it. You will most likely, I think I said this earlier, you're gonna have outcomes you did not expect. You may get responses from your business partners, the impact it had that you maybe didn't anticipate. One of those things that came up in one of my discussions with a business partner, this is a faculty member that they were new to teaching, they were new faculty, and through the consultations we helped arrange, they actually changed their teaching philosophy, as they termed it, and that was something that we didn't anticipate. So it's a good, you can update these to to include things that you discover maybe at the end of your program. So the idea with this, it says right here, logic models for impact statements. The impact statements are a nice type of document that can be publicized, or can be distributed, that tell a story. And the business relationship management logic model is the way that you can pull that information together to help tell that story. So within the logic model, you want to describe the problem, describe your actions, and then describe the output or the impact. And the logic model really follows that very closely. So it's when you're having difficulty, coming up with, what do you put in there, the logic model is going to be able to help guide you to that process. And that's, really the impact statement's what's going to be your communication tool. And the logic model itself is more of a let's build, understand, uncover, what the program's doing and what the output's going to be. So next, and as I said earlier, I think impact statements, maybe a future presentation, go more in depth on that. So next, you can take the logic model home, look at situations within your organization and build it out. You can use it to create your question bank, to survey your partners, look at those responses, see if they really had the result that you were expecting. And there are a lot of online resources for logic models. It's, like I said, it's been around a long time. A lot of universities use it and have documentation, reference to it. There's government sites that have logic model resources, and I've got some links on the next slide that I'll show you. But use it to understand and communicate your BRM program value. Obviously, it can be used for a lot of things, but with BRM, it's often difficult to quantify the type, the success of the work that we do. And this is, I think, very helpful in getting a greater understanding within the team and with others you want to influence and communicate the value of BRM. So here's some references. I want to mention Crystal Domkowski. She and I developed this presentation together. Crystal's moved on to another role in another organization, but we together we created this. This was presented at a BRM Connect conference, so kind of made some updates for our presentation today. Here's some of the links that I mentioned. It's really easy to find if you just Google, logic models. And I think we have time for questions. If anybody would like to be brave enough to, looks 19, so we probably have a few.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of time, so that's good. I will get to 2 questions that came in on chat, and then after that, if anybody wants to come off mute and ask a question, we have plenty of time. So I'll just jump into the first one. So Tiffany is asking sort of a general org alignment question. Where does the BRM team usually report to in the org chart?
Okay. It's generally in the IT organization. Our team is within the College of Agriculture, and so we report to the director of IT in the College of Agriculture. So that's kind of like our CIO, is what BRM reports to. That's, I'm Leanne reports directly to the director of IT in there. So CIO is often where that would report to.
Yeah, I've kind of seen that as well. And if anyone, 29 people on the call want to jump in, this may be a question when people starting out with BRM, their leadership may be asking, well, where does this sit? Feel free to contribute to that question in chat. The second question comes from John, and I think everyone knows John from the Project Management Community Group. If you're not a member of that, go ahead and join. A little plug in there for our PMs across the aisle. Any suggestions for when or how to bring the BRM concept if we don't have a specific BRM team? They find that their PMO team or project portfolio management team often perform, that's true, I'm reading this question, often performs these types of tasks at necessity, probably ITSM as well, John,
Mhm.
but without any formality or consistency.
Yeah, the BRM role, as I said earlier, I'm so happy to be in this place because BRM is focused on strategic opportunities. We really work to avoid getting into the day-to-day operational things. I know sometimes people will look at a BRM role and think of it, oh, you're just going to generate more work for me. And we try to avoid getting in the middle of day-to-day tasks. So we're really focused on understanding, engaging with our partners, understanding their challenges and risks, engaging with technical partners, understanding the opportunities and the direction they're going. And we're not just, BRMs have if they're focused on BRM, they have the advantage of not being distracted by day-to-day management, operational issues, things like that. They let those groups do those things and really focus on strategy. So I see a huge advantage for BRM, and if you can pull them out of project management or business analysis or things like that, and give them the opportunity to really focus on understanding, building relationships, and getting in front of opportunities. I think that's where the greatest opportunities lie.
Yeah, I just got to echo that, Mark. I think, what you see, we've had a liaison program and we were kind of stuck on the operational where we were just running tickets to the service desk saying, why hasn't this been dealt with, more escalation issues? And I'm sure a lot of my colleagues on the phone are that resonates with them. And so what advice would you give, in the brief time, how do we elevate the BRM role to more of a strategic partner and kind of getting them out of the weeds if you guys are suffering and gals are suffering from this kind of situation? Yeah,
Yeah,
just Tiffany's kind of echoing the same question, right?
right. No, that's a challenge because it's difficult to tie dollars, and it's like, oh, you saved us this many dollars with your BRM program. You've got to, your executive leadership needs to understand the strategic importance of improving relationships and helping business partners be more effective. We had the directive of optimizing the technology investment for our faculty. So let's eliminate roadblocks. Let's make it quicker, to get them quicker to the services and technologies they need. Let's inform them when they arrive, understand what they're trying to accomplish, and then immediately get them to the technologies and the providers that can help them be successful. And you don't have the opportunity to do that when you are focused on putting out fires and addressing tickets and resolving issues. So that the executive sponsorship is really important. There's a lot of good information on the Business Relationship Management Institute website. There's public information. There is a membership that gets you access to more of the details, but there's some good articles and resources for people that are looking to start BRM programs or provide that understanding of what impact BRM can have for an organization.
Great, and thanks for the plug for the resources on the free resources on the BRM Institute site. I'll definitely have to take a look at that. We have some time left. If anyone does have questions they want to throw in chat or take themselves off mute. Just give a few more minutes here if anybody has something they want to add.
How do you measure progress of the initiative or transformation?
Progress, as far as when you're in the initiative.
You know, when you launch a program and make the transition, you know, you're starting from zero, you don't have strong relationships. You know, how are there indicators of success along the journey that makes you feel good or makes you say you're doing the right thing?
Well, you want to make sure that, I don't know, measuring it along the way. You may have opportunities if you've got a phased approach to measure opportunities, to measure success. And I think you could use the same approach and, survey, have a discussion with your impacted parties, your stakeholders, to understand, have you seen improvement? Have you been able to do X? Is it easier to do X? If you've got some things that have happened, but you've got to have the opportunity that there are some outcomes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great question from Sherry. She's asking, do the business relationship managers, do they help the business units develop those business cases to look for strategic opportunities or take advantage of strategic opportunities?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good to, if you have the opportunity to help them to work together on a business case, I think it's going to be a much stronger business case because, as a BRM, you're going to have more knowledge of what a technology partner, technology solution could provide. But, they're going to understand how it gets applied and how it's going to address issues within the organization, and which is, what you're ultimately trying to do. You want to be able to demonstrate that, there's been a benefit for the business, and it's not just we implemented this really nice piece of technology. You got to be able to demonstrate and communicate, in your business case, what you expect will happen. So, and I think the logic model could help really provide some more depth and understanding of what the opportunities might be.
So Tiffany has a follow-up question to Sherry. She's asking, what outcomes does the BRM team deliver in terms of tangible work other than like a business case?
It's interesting because we don't have a lot of tangible outcomes in business relationship management. There's things that we utilize within business relationship management, as tools to help us be more effective. It's not something that is a project plan that's going to go out. So for example, relationship strategy on a page. It's a way to look at where there are deficiencies within the relationship and partnership of BRM and technology partners with business partners. And relationship strategy on a page can provide a roadmap and focus on areas that need to be worked on and improved, and then you can use those in repetition to understand if you've actually made improvements in those relationships. And there's other tools like that are a part of the business relationship management profession and were developed by the BRM Institute to help BRMs in their roles.
Tiffany, Sherry, hopefully that answered your question. I'm going to ask a question on behalf of my ITSM listeners here. What sort of involvement or level of involvement do you have around designing or developing, getting requirements for service levels? So service level targets.
We don't focus on service levels. That's we focus on relationships. The service levels can, I'm sure everyone knows, they can be misleading and sometimes and oftentimes don't reveal the deficiencies in the organization or the successes of the organization. And it's kind of like a checkbox that we have. So as BRMs, we do not focus on service levels. That's really a transactional type activity, and we in our organization, that's not a focus.
Sure, fair enough. All right, Lou, hopefully I'm saying Lou's name right. He's asking if you have an experience with encouraging a cautious or reluctant partner to engage with your BRM group and process.
Yes, certainly do. I don't know if you're talking about business partner or technology partner, but in the example for technology partner, we always meet and try to understand, build that relationship with technology partners. But in the beginning, especially, there were some that were reluctant. They saw us as getting between them and faculty who, they want to be closer with. But when we started to do our role, and we would bring them opportunities that they may not have been able to get to, they saw that we were not there to be a middleman and a gatekeeper. We were actually there to bring them valid, interested business partners, faculty that wanted to engage with their the technology and the service they were providing. So it was kind of like my suggestion is, when you have someone that is reluctant, you just show them what you're going to do, and you bring them in on the conversations. You arrange consultations between them and business partners, and show them that you're not going to be limiting their access. You're actually going to be increasing the access that they have to where they want to be. It's been really effective when we've had the chance to do that. So we don't want to be gatekeepers. We want, I see it as I've been successful when I can point to a new relationship that I've helped start between business and technical partners that wasn't as strong or wasn't there at all to begin with. So that's the way I look at that.
That reminds me of a great story that Leon shared about this kind of like testimony, right? Encouraging others to seek you out because there's been success. She shared a story a while back about a internet capable, or they wanted internet in a field, and they use these weather balloons to provide internet access. And so leveraging technology to help track some sort of process on the fields. I mean, I'm gonna get the story messed up, but basically sharing stories of how technology can be leveraged to solve challenges, and how the BRM supports that, getting to the requirements, getting to how it can meet your strategic objectives. Just the point is, I think, is that sharing those success stories about other departments have used and been successful with engaging with your BRM partners. So.
Right. No, it's we're really doing a lot of development now on wireless infrastructure for sensors in fields.
Yeah,
that are probably in areas where there's no Wi-Fi, and cellular would require too much battery. So we're doing some things, and those initial partners, we've gone into those engagements saying, okay, this is kind of new territory, and we know we're going to struggle, but this is an opportunity for you to be on the leading edge of this, being able to deploy, 100 sensors in a cornfield. And we know that when we complete that and we're successful, and other faculty see that story,
Absolutely.
we're going to have people lined up at the door to utilize that same technology. And we want to be, we want to be able to tell that story, and we want the faculty to be able to tell the story, because that's going to be more effective than the IT telling the story and saying, yeah, great, I've heard this before. But when you have a business partner giving his testimony for what he was able to do in partnership with technology partners, that goes much farther.
All right, well, we're running close to the hour, but I think that's an important takeaway is share your success stories, right? And a segue, share this with your colleagues and coworkers after you get the recording. As Mark mentioned, we're going to try to schedule the third and final session to this 3-part series. Look for more information on that. I want to thank Mark for his time, sharing his insight with us. His contact can be found, information can be found on slide deck. Just know that if you have an event or you have a topic that you want to share or a presentation you want to give, just reach out to me. We're always looking for fresh ideas and people that want to present. As I mentioned, the chat transcript recording and templates that you've seen today will be shared and available within 5 business days. Please visit the ITSM website to see all of our past recordings, a lot of great information, a lot of great recordings on past BRM webinars. And with that, I will thank Mark, and I will thank the audience for attending. Everyone have a nice day. See you later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Take care, everyone.